What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a massive day for the markets as we have the big FOMC meeting. So I'm going to break down when is it actually happening, how may this affect the markets, what you should be watching for tomorrow if you are a NIO investor, if you're investing in anything. And before I get started and say anything about this and talk about how this could affect NIO's share price, I got to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any can be a free Tesla share, a free NIO share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 2 weeks. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So in my previous videos, I was talking about this channel that NIO has been in between $12, maybe like $11.9 to $12, like the bottom right there, between there and all the way up to about this 13.5-ish level. And I did believe that NIO would stay in this channel, and that is very close to what ended up happening. We didn't actually push all the way up to about 13.4 to 13.5. We actually got rejected a little bit earlier. We had this very big gap to the upside. If you look at NIO, it went from being in like the mid $12 range all the way up to about 13.3 almost. Then we had a big sell-off as the day went on. We bounced off 12 and we basically traded flats from there. Why did NIO do this? Well, SPY was very similar. All right, what just happened? So on SPY, we had a big gap to the upside. We hit 410. Then the market could not hold this up and we ended up dropping. And I told everyone I expect a big move if CPI comes out and it's lower than anticipated. And that is what ended up happening. CPI came out. It was actually 7.1%. That's for the overall CPI and 6% for core CPI. What's good about these numbers is right here we could see CPI is starting to respect a downtrend. Core CPI is also respecting a downtrend. This is de-incentivizing the Fed to be more and more hawkish, which is a good sign for the markets. However, you also have to remember the market's going to move based off policy and based off earnings, the recession, and things like that going forward as well. Because going forward, okay, the Fed are just the first part of this recession or most recessions out there. Another big part of it is not just the Fed, it's also what happens after the recession, what happens to consumer spending, what happens to unemployment, what happens to earnings for companies, profitability, margins, and so on and so forth. So there is going to be pain in the future still for 2023, but what is very interesting is for the immediate short term, where we move and what happens is going to be very dependent on the Fed tomorrow. And that's why I want to transition your focus on what's actually happening tomorrow. So what's essentially happening is we have the big FOMC meeting tomorrow. So it's another huge heavyweight day tomorrow. And the Fed is going to be talking about their rate hike decision and also future expectations. And I believe they're going to talk about 2023 as well. So far, the market is basically fully priced in 50 basis points, and we already started to price in about 75 basis points, but not that much. So I don't see the Fed giving us 75 basis points. The odds are very unlikely. We're most likely going to see 50 basis points. Now, when is the meeting happening and what else is there to it? Because rate hikes are not all there are to it. The official FOMC or Federal Reserve website says the meeting is going to be tomorrow. The big one is going to be tomorrow. What time? It's going to start, well, actually, we first have the rate hike decision. That's going to come out at about 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time in the USA. So please mark your calendars, have your alarms set for that. The market's going to make a big move based off that. However, that's just half of what's about to come, or even just a small part of it. The bigger thing is going to come at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, the press conference of the Fed. Jerome Powell is going to be speaking. All right, so I expect the market to be pretty boring tomorrow for the first couple of hours. Just trade sideways, not really do much, just chop back and forth. And then the big moves come during the last couple of hours. When the rate hike decision comes, I think the market might maybe like pump a little bit because the market likes, certainty and etc. However, by the time we get to the FOMC meeting part, everything could change depending on what Jerome Powell says. He could be very dovish and cause the market to explode and start pushing up, or he could be very, very hawkish and the whole market could collapse and drag all these stocks, drag NIO down and all the other stocks out there. So please be very careful. So what could actually happen to SPY? All right, I'm going to talk about NIO in a second. Just be a little more patient. Looking at SPY, tomorrow I expect this to just trade boring, sideways, just bounce back and forth like this. Then as we approach 2 o'clock p.m., the rate hike decision comes, we're probably going to see it push up, and that's going to drag the market up. And then Jerome Powell comes. The moment he comes, the moment his mouth opens, expect the market to come down kind of hard like this, maybe retest 397, bounce, and expect crazy volatility starting at 2. Maybe starting at like 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time it starts, but it becomes crazier by 2:30 p.m. when the meeting starts. When Powell talks, we're ultimately going to see, all right, two possibilities. Okay, the first possibility would be, because the market did actually test 410, the first possibility is us pumping even more thanks to Jerome Powell and seeing a retest of this 417 zone. However, if Powell is super hawkish, because he could really choose what he wants to say, the Fed could choose it too. He could say things that cause us to be more excited, more dovish. Because remember, the last time the guy spoke, the SPY was at 393. It pushed all the way up to 410 in just one day. But if he wants to be hawkish, expect the market to dump pretty hard. Expect us to retest like 390 or even lower very, very soon. We could even come down to fill the gap all the way down to like 380. So be very careful. He could cause us to crash. The Fed obviously wants that to happen. So I think it's a little bit more likely we take a hit, but I can't promise anything. It depends on the Fed. For NIO, what does all of this mean? We're not going to worry as much about NIO's like fundamentals, at least just for tomorrow. The Fed is going to be the big thing that drives this stock. If Jerome Powell causes the market to pump and SPY starts breaking out of its broadening descending wedge again, retesting the upper trend line in the ascending wedge, or like 417, just hypothetically, expect NIO to start pushing up, and we might see NIO approach $14, maybe even break above it. All right. But if the market is set to collapse and the whole market starts tanking very, very hard, all right, NIO is going to come all the way down to about 11 point. Well, first it has to actually retest 12. If it breaks 12, which is likely what's going to happen if the whole market crashes, then NIO is going to fight for 11.33 around that zone. It has to try to hold this, because if NIO fails at 11.3, this thing is going to crash all the way down, in my opinion, to the low 10s. So it has to hold this level right here, 11.3 or so. If this thing does come down, it has to try to do that. If it doesn't, it's going to be very bloody. So I want everyone to be prepared for that. Not saying it will happen. It's going to depend on Jerome Powell. That's why Jerome Powell is very powerful. That's why he has such a big influence. What do I think he's most likely going to do? I just don't really know, guys. Sometimes it's very unpredictable. But I do believe it's a little bit more likely for him to be hawkish. That's just like my view. But it really depends on what he specifically says and the extent of how hawkish he is. That's why I can't really predict that perfectly. So please be ready for a huge move tomorrow during the last 2 hours the market is open. Extreme volatility, guys. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be madness. Please be ready, be cautious, do what you have to do, and I'll most definitely see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still very, very bright. I'm still very bullish on NIO, but get ready for FOMC. Powell has some big announcements to make for 2023, in my opinion. Be ready. This will shift the entire market. It's going to move Tesla. It's going to move like AMC, AMD, Apple. All the stocks out there are going to move because of this, including NIO. So please be ready. Thank you. Like I said before, I'm still very bullish long term on NIO. The short term is still capricious. So please be ready for anything. Thank you and peace out.